Well, good morning, everyone. This is Joseph from Adjuvant Protocols for Healing. Welcome this morning to all of you. As you know, these are recorded and put onto my YouTube channel, youtube.com/JosephAndTell, or you can also use this link here, even though it's complicated. Today is Thursday, November the 17th. I will be teaching again in November on that third Thursday as well before Christmas. It is interesting this cycle with all of you over these many years teaching, how I come up with ideas, and they come to me during the day, and I wanted to continue kind of a series I've been doing related to my memoirs, you could say, or my life experience. But this particular topic came to me as I originally thought as a sideline to helping you understand how to build a foundation in your own health, family's health, clients' health. And as I got into this about vascular health and vascular care, I realized that this is an extremely, probably one of the most important things that I will ever teach you from my standpoint. We have other great teachers, Michael Gaeta, Mark Anderson, Paul Keppel, Chris and Alyssa Taylor, all of them, and others that I don't know about who teach. But I tried to bring a uniqueness in the sense that most of what I teach comes out of the protocols of my book, Adjuvant Protocols for Healing. So let's look at this. And as you know, when I teach, the way I think to apply products or to utilize certain substances for healing, certain frequencies in nutrients, in herbs, and in lifestyle, that I always think it through as to what we're actually working with. What is the structure? What is that structure made of? And how do specific nutrients complement and reinforce and maintain the integrity of that structure, whatever it is. So today we're working with the blood vessels, the vascular system. So I'm not going to read all of these because most of you have had training, but you can read these through, and if you want to go deeper, you can read the whole article where I get these from. But mainly what we're working with is three specific areas when you're working with the vascular system. I will read this first paragraph. The vascular system is made up of vessels that carry blood and lymph fluid through the body. Now, when we think of the blood vessels, we tend not to think of lymph vessels. Remember, there are twice as many lymph vessels in the body as blood vessels. Why? Because that is the means by which which doesn't serve in the blood is metabolized out of the body. So the effort that nature, whoever created this amazing human form, how nature made it, and the laws and principles upon which it is made, it made that cleansing process and that awareness process that of anything that doesn't serve in the blood to have two opportunities to not be in the blood. So this is a very important part of today. And we're going to look at this. Of course, this is going to be, which I didn't mention in the beginning, a two-part series. I had so much information on this, I decided to do it in two parts. So to carry the blood and lymph fluid through the body. It's also called the circulatory system. Now, when I teach the heart sound recorder, if we look at the aortic, the second sound in the aortic, and I didn't give you an example of that, but I'll mention that. We're looking at circulatory factors. That's why the heart sound recorder, in everything that I teach and do with clients, I'm looking at all of this in relationship to blood vessels, to arteries, to veins, capillaries, to lymph flow. So when we talk about this, and because it is part of how the body functions well or not well. So so it is called the circulatory system. The arteries and veins carry blood all over the body. They send oxygen and nutrients to the body tissues. That's an important point, because the oxygen and nutrients don't need to stay in the blood. Their designated destination is the tissues. Staying in the blood only causes more problems, as you will see as we go through this. So, and they take the nutrients to the body tissues, and they take away tissue waste. The lymph vessels carry lymphatic fluid. This is a clear, colorless fluid made of water and blood cells, which I didn't know that. The lymphatic system is part of the immune system that helps rid the body of toxins and waste. It does this by filtering and draining lymph away from each region of the body. The vessels of the blood circulatory system are, as we know, arteries, veins, capillaries. So when you think of the body's circulatory system, obviously we think of the heart, but the heart could not do its job unless these blood vessels were playing their part. And this was a very cool slide that I found that I think you'll enjoy reading through. I'm not going to read all of these, but a few really interesting facts. That you have 60,000 miles. If you stretch that out, that's 2.5 times or 2+ times around the Earth. 60,000 miles of blood vessels. Now, about 80% of these is capillaries, and about 20% are your major blood vessels. That's 100,000 kilometers, just so you know, if you're looking at that way of reading it. And they carry a tremendous amount of blood throughout time. Every day, your blood pumps about 1,800 gallons of blood through your blood vessels. Can you imagine? Over the course of a lifetime, this vast system carries about 1 million barrels of blood throughout the body. So the body is constantly being fed with vitamins, minerals, proteins, fatty acids. But if the vascular system is not really youthful, if it isn't of great integrity, then those nutrients don't get carried. So, and again, you want to think arteries, veins, and capillaries. So, and we're going to look at in this series, both today and next month, we're going to look at the reasons why there is a breakdown and the outcome of that. especially in the aging process. And there's a video, if it comes on, and I'm able to play it for you. It's highly significant, as all the baby boomer generation gets older. It's highly significant how these blood vessels play a part in the force field of the brain, as they say. Blood vessels are a part of an important defense system known as the blood-brain barrier. We've all heard of this. I'm going to show you a video on this that is, says 1,000 words. It's a network of blood vessels and tissues comprised of closely spaced cells help keep harmful substance from reaching the brain, if they are intact, if they are vital. The blood-brain barrier allows some essential substances, water, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and to pass into the brain, but keeps bacteria and other dangerous substances out. So, this I thought was interesting. Although general anesthetics can pass through the blood-brain barrier, many important medications, including some anti-cancer drugs, are unavailable to, preventing challenges for doctors. Yeah, because they're too harsh. And the body knows it. It won't allow things to pass in that, defile the body. So, for doctors treating many serious debilitating diseases for the brain, these include brain cancer and Parkinson's. And this is why in my lecture on Parkinson's, one of the great challenges is the medications for it don't work that well, because the body won't let them into the brain areas where they think they could have effect. I thought this was interesting. The circulatory system helps maintain body temperature. Blood vessels expand and release according to the weather. So there it is. Very interesting. Now, all of you have had, is number 7, we've had these, what we call brain freezes. Well, that's your capillary system at work. That's your blood vessels at work, expanding and contracting. So, the agency notes that ice cream headaches are more common among people that have migraines. So again, people with migraines, from a medical science standpoint, have restricted vascular function in the brain. And of course, all of you, know how I feel about chocolate. It's not a substance I feel most people should have. However, I'm open to someone else's thinking. Eating moderate amounts of chocolate, now I know you're all making notes on this, could offer some benefits, including keeping your heart and blood vessels healthy and helping to lower heart disease, even stroke. So you can read this study, read about dark chocolate. And I think, again, the key is small amounts, no sugar. You need to get 70 to 90% cacao, if you're going to use chocolate. Of course, I've taught this all to you before. Obesity, it is estimated that every pound of fat requires about 1 extra mile of blood vessels. Now, I read 1 to 5, but anyway, whatever it is, it's a lot. So if you get somebody that's 110 pounds, that's probably pretty good normal function. But if you get somebody 300 pounds, they're really compromised. So blood vessels undergo changes with age and time, but damage can start early, even during childhood. Teens with high blood pressure may show signs of thickening arteries by the time they are 30. So again, trauma is a huge part of this. What are the causes of vascular disease? And I'm going to get into this not as much today as I will in December. when we consider that. I'm going to mention it here. But one of the key factors in the debilitating vascular system, the blood vessels, is the buildup of plaque. Here is our lifestyle of carbohydrates. There's nothing wrong with fat if they're natural fats, but any fat that is not natural, trans fats, is a real problem. And most of cholesterol comes out of too much, not living in the paleo way. So here are the factors that create this fat, this plaquing. Fatty substances, which cholesterol is part of that, cell waste, calcium, and fibrin. So what is fibrin? Fibrin is the repair mechanism. This is why when someone, say, has a stroke, they put them on blood thinners and they say, you cannot have any green leafy vegetables. You can't have anything with vitamin K in their minds. Because this fibrin, in damaged blood vessels, forms, it's trying to repair it, but it overdoes the repair. So in most cases, so you build up like a plug or a clot. Now, as long as that repair stays on the arterial wall or any blood vessel wall, that's fine. You want it, but you want it in any excess, you want it to dissolve gradually. And I'm going to show you natural substances today that help with that gradual, when the body overdoes the repair on the arterial wall, how specific substances can gradually shave that off or break it down so that you don't get all this occlusion. And one of the things I want to mention here about this is when medical science says, well, you can't have any vitamin K, and that's fine. You you have to honor that. Now, if somebody on Coumadin, where their blood is checked, every couple of weeks, once or twice a month, you can get away with some green leafy vegetables. But remember, vitamin K works in connection with all of the other fat-soluble vitamins, A, E, F, and K. So if you have a lot of K without the others, that is what creates a lot of this problem. So it's always about whole food, whole earth substances in whatever we're doing. And that's why, vitamin K has become like vitamin D now. Everybody's doing this K2 supplements. It's not a good thing to do. It's dangerous, in my opinion, unless you're taking the other three that balance that, those fat-soluble vitamins. Really, the best product is any product that has a concentration of green leafy vegetables. They will have all four in there. And my favorite, of course, is chlorophyll. So they're in their natural form. They're very low, and they should not cause a problem. Other products, organically bound minerals, other products with alfalfa in it, like catalase, so many products with alfalfa in it. So just one comment on that. But when you get vascular disease, and you get blockage, this is where, blood clots can come into the place of danger for that individual. Inflammation in general is vasculitis. Includes disorders. Inflammation may lead to narrowing and blocking of blood vessels. We'll look at that today. Injury, we already talked about. And of course, genetics, which, I don't discuss that, because just because your parents or your grandparents didn't live and eat right, that doesn't mean they're going to have that. Now, That's the excuse of those that don't know, that don't have any answers. They say, oh, it's genetic. Well, what about finding out? What about knowing? What about knowing more than what you've been taught so far in your life in reductionism, or how medical science thinks, which is fine, totally fine, and to be respected. But what about the ones that were doing things before all these medications and procedures? What were they doing? How did they survive? So the next phase, next phase of this lecture has to do with the anatomy of blood vessels. This is where, if you're going to apply nutrition, if you're going to apply the accurate vitamin, mineral, and light protein and herbs, you've got to understand the tissue itself and what that tissue needs. Okay, so arteries, capillaries, venules, veins returning to the heart. Okay, that is, but this is the important thing to remember. The function and structure of each segment of the peripheral vascular system. Now, you're talking about peripheral vascular, but this is all the veins, all the blood vessels, all the arteries, and all the capillaries. This principle applies. What are they made of? Depending on the organ it supplies. Aside from the capillaries, blood vessels are all made of 3 layers. So there's an exception there with the capillaries. But with the capillaries, of the 3, they're made up of 2 of these. The adventia, or the outer layer, which provides a structural support and shape to the vessel. And I'm going to show you a video of this. The tunica media, or middle layer, composed of, get this everyone, elastic and muscular tissue. Well, wait a minute, Joe, what the hell is elastic tissue? Well, it is a type of collagen that is flexible. So we're going to get into that. Here is where you need things like vitamin C, go to cola. You need things like that, because that elastic piece is really the essential part of whether that vascular structure stays young, keeps its integrity, or falters and becomes part of the problem. The muscular tissue, which relates to the internal diameter of the blood vessel. Now, many of you, maybe not, I forgot that the blood vessels in part are made of muscle tissue. So now you're thinking, oh, vitamin E, cardiotrophin, yes. And the elastic part, as I say, vitamin F, and go to cola. So here it is. The tunic intima, or or an inner layer, consistently of endothelial lining. So that's the other important piece. This is skin. Again, a dermal substance, a collagen type substance. This is why, as we go through this, and if you look in my book under vascular integrity, the number 1 product is vitamin C. It's vitamin C. And we'll get into that, which provides a frictionless, I love that, the epithelial lining, which provides a frictionless pathway for the movement of the blood. You know, if you take your hand and move it across somebody that has healthy skin, there's no friction, it's soft, it's smooth. Well, this is the same principle here. So you can keep that in your mind, that there is no friction. Now, if the blood vessel is unhealthy, then there's friction. Then you get this repair of the fibrin, and this building up, these little plugs, clotting that build up. It's not smooth. And some of that blood platelet gets caught up and added to that repair. Shouldn't. That layer should be completely smooth. Within each layer, the amount of muscle and collagen fibrils varies depending on the size of the location. So what kind of damage? We already talked about the damage from the saw it here, atherosclerosis, the plaque, right? But what other things? The blood vessel itself changes slightly with age. Normal aging causes a reduction in total body water. Now, there's a lifestyle principle right there. As we age, more fluids, half your weight in ounces. Now, some teachers don't like that. They give you the actual ounces, but half your normal or high school body weight in ounces is what I recommend. As part of this, there is less fluid in the bloodstream, so blood volume decreases. So you want the blood volume to stay normal and balanced. The speed with which red blood cells are produced in response to stress or illness is reduced. And I would add here, it creates a slower response to blood loss and anemia, of course, if you have these little bleeds. Now, remember, these individuals on blood thinners, just think about this. They're getting little bleeds all the time. If they're bleeding on their skin surface, they have little bleeds inside. Don't let anybody tell you different. Now you can say, well, it's no big deal. It isn't. It isn't for the most part. But if you get an older person and they're falling, or they are under a lot of emotional stress, that all adds to pressure on these little blood vessels called capillaries. So they get these little bleeds internally. If you're bleeding outside, you're bleeding inside. That's the gospel according to Joseph. So now remember, when you look at this particular, the speed and function of red blood cells, you want to think of ginkgo. And we're going to talk about that in a second. Ginkgo, that herb, is a lubricant. It is WD-40, as I use the analogy, for the red blood cells. So they slip through the vascular chamber. Remember, we talked about the blood vessel lining being frictionless? Well, what happens if there is a lot of friction? Then you need a substance that helps the red blood cells move through more expeditiously, more efficiently. And so, therefore, you have to make sure that anybody that's having trouble vascularly is on some form of ginkgo twice a week. I'm not saying they have to take it every day, but 2 to 3 times a week. For this very reason, because there's bleeding. Remember, ginkgo does not thin the blood. That is, you never see that in European writing. You only see it in US writing. It does not thin the blood. It just makes the blood move more efficiently. Most of the white blood cells stay at the same levels, although certain white blood cells important to immunity a decrease in their number and ability to fight off bacteria. So this is also a huge part. The quality of your blood vessels has to do with how these white blood cells either get there to do their job or don't. So, and this reduces the ability to resist infection. So, normally the heart continues to pump enough blood to supply all parts of the body. However, an older heart may not be able to pump blood as well when you make it work harder. So what makes it work harder? Some of the things that make your heart work harder are medications, emotional stress. Now, if you have ever had a loved one or a friend that you visited in senior citizen facilities, you know they're not in their home anymore. They don't have a lot of visitors. It's very emotional for them. And people that sit around all day and then get into physical exertion, illness, infections. So these are what affects the changes in blood vessels. So let's get into these different layers of the blood vessel, the circulatory system, the nature of blood vessels. The largest blood vessels and arteries are veins which have a thick, tough wall of connective tissue. Remember that. There's your vitamin C. Okay. There is vitamin C. So important. And we'll get into that in a second, which you've heard me teach before. But I'm just making a note. And many layers of smooth muscle cells. So again, think of the nutrients when you see this. Oh, C, dermatrophin, layers of smooth muscle cells, some form of vitamin E, mainly wheat germ oil, but any form of vitamin, cardiotrophin, right? These are muscle cells and how we can give nutrients for that. The wall is lined by an exceedingly thin single sheet of endothelium. There's your skin, there's your calcium, your F, and dermatrophin, separated from the surrounding layers by a basal lamina. That's very interesting. I didn't look that up, but we could talk about that next time. Lynn, if you'd make a note of that about the basal lamina. The amounts of connective tissue and smooth muscle vessel will vary. Okay, I'm not going to. So, now, in this regard, contraction, so the quality, again, of these vessels has a lot to do with pressure. So this is why I put this slide in. Contraction of the ventricle, so that's the lower part of the heart. When your heart receives the electrical current, the lower part, the ventricles of the heart contract. Then they push the blood up through the semilunar valves, and the left side pushes blood everywhere. The right side pushes blood back to the lungs to be oxygenated. Blood pressure is caused by contraction of the ventricles of the heart, and also by, this is why I put this slide in, the elasticity of the arterial walls. Here it is again, this elastic part, this flexibility. We should not lose total flexibility as we age. That is a problem of malnutrition. It is not a problem of age. It just isn't. Of the arterial walls. When the heart contracts, blood pressure is the highest. This is called systolic. When the heart is relaxed, that's your diastolic. Blood pressure is lowest. This is called diastolic. Some pressure is maintained in the vessels at all times. Remember, not all the blood leaves the heart completely. Only about 70%, if your heart is healthy, leaves. So there's always a little bit remaining, and eventually, though, that blood is sent out next time. Even when the heart is known as diastolic, pressure count. So as people age, plaque builds up. Now we're going to get into this plaquing, as I say, next time, but we'll touch upon it. It builds up in the arteries, increasing vessel resistance, which leads to disease, a lack of ease, challenges. It's It's called atherosclerosis. So now the vascular system is important for what? The vascular system is important for every area of the body. Now, we can look at this, you can read about this. Oh, the respiratory system, okay, the digestive system, kidneys. But you can think of it as this way. Every part of the body, if your arterial system, if your blood vessels, your vascular and arterial system, and your capillaries are breaking down, you could say, well, Joe, how would I begin to see that? How would I experience it in my own body? And the signs are you getting a lot of stiffness in the morning or throughout the day? That's a vascular issue. That's a blood vessel issue. Drooping skin. You probably would think of it, but that is a lack of capillaries feeding that skin. People, as they get older in age, or even some younger ones, they get dizzy. Well, that's a circulatory issue. Bruising, which we talked about. Colorectal problems, which we're going to talk about, hemorrhoids and varicose veins next time. Aging in general. So even if, a lot of my clients still ask me, well, how do I know, if my blood vessels are good? Some of them ask me that from time to time because I'm starting to get little bruising. My question is, can you drive your car at night? Now, other teachers, which is true, well, that's a vitamin A deficiency, but it also is a compromise in the capillary system that goes to the eyes. Very little blood goes to the eyes. And as that capillary piece weakens, the eyes get worse. And so that's how I look at that. Headaches, night driving, and mental cognition. Jeez. It's a little thing, Joe, but I forget where I put my keys. I go into a room and I forgot why I went into the room. I head out with the car and I forgot where I'm going to go shopping. Forgot my grocery list. On and on and on. Now you think, oh, well, that's the brain. But why? Why is it the brain? Because of the circulation to the brain. That is the real issue. Now, this is from my book, and as always, I try to keep this simple. Now, you're not going to take all of these products unless you have a real vascular problem overall. You have blood vessel issues. But I always, in my book, list the products you must take in order of importance. So, in my opinion, everyone after the age of 50, definitely after the age of 60, must be on some form of vitamin C, which we'll get into in a second. Now, the best that I know of, the anti-stroke vitamin is Cyruta Plus. Here's your rutin, asparaginine, quercetin. Or say you get someone, this is why I put or. Now the P factor, everyone, is Cyruta Plus. Cyruta Plus has all the vitamin C factors, but it emphasizes the bioflavonoids, which are the P factor. And so this product, ACP, but what happens if you say, Joe, I got someone that really having a hard time driving at night. I would give them, because they're losing that visual purple in their eyes, I would also give them, I would give them, instead of Cyruta Plus, I would give them ACP. Now, what I do, everyone, is one day I take 6 Cyruta Plus a day. Now, if you go into my other office, by my desk, you'll see a bottle of Cyruta Plus there. I don't ever go a day without taking Cyruta Plus. 6. I just put 6 at once. I'm not going to go back. Probably remember that again. If you go to my car, I have ACP right in the console of my car. Took it this morning when I went and got my tea. Protofood. Now we'll get into this in a second. So in my opinion, one of these products, and now this is a very high dose that I put in there. Normally I would use 1 and 1, or I just take 1 a day. John Courtney said, Joe, you really only need, now that was back in the 70s, by the way. He said, you really only need 3 protofood a week, 1 Monday, 1 Wednesday, 1 Friday. Okay. But our systems are much more broken down now. Just everything from stress to food quality and lack of the total 22 amino acid factor, which I'll show you in a second. So 1 protofood a day. Again, if you go to my car, it's there. Now I'm going to go through vascular care and go to cola. Now, if you have blood vessel issues, which this is more hemorrhoids, varicose veins, and a couple other things, which I'll talk to you about in December, but it's still in here. If you have vascular issues, you should be taking this vascular care 2 to 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Simple. And take a couple of them. Even if you took 2, you don't have to take 4. 4 is better. But everyone, somewhere between 50 and 60. And I'm going to show you why. This relates to the stretchiness, the soft, keeping the collagen in the blood vessels supple, to keeping it stretching and flexing and being flexible, stretchy. I don't care what you want to call it. This is and this has ginkgo in it, and it has grapeseed, which is more of the vitamin C factor. It's a great product. Or you could do my liquid blend that I'll talk about. So in my opinion, everybody, all of us, should definitely be Cyruta Plus, Protofood, and then be aware of Gotu-Kola, and if needed, vascular care. Then remember, all right, Joe, I've got people on, Cyruta Plus and Collinsonia root, and the hemorrhoids, they're not doing well. They're varicose veins. You see veins in their chest. They get these little spider veins. That's because now not so much the capillaries, as they said, but the larger blood vessels, like the blood vessels down your leg and in your rectum. You've got to address the muscle piece of this and the dermal piece. That's where these others come in. So you can, again, rotate these. 1 week, focus on cardiotrophin. Everyone should be on cardiotrophin anyway. But add wheat germ oil for a week. Then the other week, dermatrophin or vitamin F. Or a month, do a month of these 2 and a month of these 2. So this rotation, which I do teach in some of my other classes, is also very important. Because you can't say at a certain point to your clients, well, we're going to skip these because, you're on so many other things. So Mark Anderson and I were just talking last night about what happens if the world was ending. He's going to do a talk on this, and I'm not going to give you the products, but we were laughing about, well, how many, and Mark said, Joe, you can take any 6 products. You get as many as you want to take with you for the rest of your life, but you can only take 6. Which 6? You can think about that. You think about that, and then Mark will record this. You'll be able to hear him next year with his recordings. So, what is the lifestyle? Walking in nature. Now, why do I say that? Oh, Joe, don't make a big deal. I walk in the neighborhood where it's loud and cars are running into me. I'm stressed out. I have to make sure nobody's hitting me, or a bicycle's not coming up in back of me, or walk in nature, an hour a day. Now, you're not going to make 365 days a year. I don't. I walk 3 miles a day, but I only get it 300 days a year. That's okay. That's good. Now, why walking in nature? Because when you walk in nature, that frequency is 10 hertz. Now, what will we talk about earlier about the brain? The brain and the brain's ability to take in nutrients and keep others out. The brain also functions, the resting brain at 10 hertz. That's why I walk in nature. Now, people like Lynn, she walks in the Garden of the Gods, Colorado Springs. That's where you want to be walking. You want to be walking in the garden with God. Oh, the Garden of Gods. Oh, okay. Never mind. So there it is, the walking. And then the other things is this far infrared sauna. Now, you only need, I'm saying 3-hour-long sessions a week. One is good because that is not heating and removing through the lymph vessels poisons, toxins. It's getting in there. It's not just making you sweat on the surface. The far infrared is heating the organs so they dispel into the lymph system what is no longer serving. Far infrared sauna. And yoga, Tai Chi, or Hatha yoga in particular, is the more relaxed. When the blood vessels, or I should say it this way, one of the big things about blood vessels is if they're tense all the time, they begin to create this stiffening effect, where if they relax even an hour a day, because if you're doing yoga, you're relaxing those blood vessels for at least an hour. Then you sleep, maybe you take a nap. This is all very essential in how we live. Now, clients say, Joe, I just don't have time. You've got to make time. It's not a good decision. It won't serve you well in your latter years, the last 30 years of your life, 30 to 90, unless you take time to love yourself. You take time to care for yourself. All of you on these calls, you have devoted your life to helping and loving and caring for others. But how about you? How about you? That's why I'm doing this. This is primarily for all people. So now, as I said, aging is a huge part and I'm not going to get into this much because I've already really covered this. But the changes, as with all of the blood vessel systems, some changes in the heart and blood vessels normally occur with age. However, many other changes that are common with aging are due or worsened by modifiable factors. In other words, that's what I was just talking about. If you're not doing this, then this is going to happen. Now, I'm not cursing anyone. I'm not laying this on you. This is the facts of the laws of nature. If not worked with, they're using the word treated, these can lead to heart disease. If you do this, your chances of heart disease are a lot less in your lifestyle. Yes, supplements are great, and this is that plaquing, but you got to put the whole thing together, as we well know. And so this is kind of a repeat, but you can see these larger blood vessels, how they begin to plaque up. And now you could say the reason I put this in, this is a great photo actually from, I believe it's from Mayo Clinic. People say, oh, I can't walk. I get pains in my leg. Red flag, signal, we need to work on that. We need to work on the quality of the vascular structure, and we need to work on that plaquing element, that arteriosclerosis. So, and usually the legs give you the sign. People say, oh man, if I sit too long, my legs go to sleep, my feet go to sleep. That is all a sign, not just of claudication, can be, or just, I mean, the potential of claudication. It's a sign that your arteries are beginning to plaque up with fatty deposits and calcium. And here are the symptoms. So I just went through them. Now, there's a couple of these, I put this in because there's a couple of these that you get questions about all the time. The skin on the legs and the hair on the legs, you know, that's a sign, right? In the hair, it's not, if you know, they say, oh, that can be blood sugar, that's diabetes. That is that vascular breakdown. That's what that is. The skin color changes in the legs, the slow growing toenails. So you can sores on the toes and legs that won't heal. Now you can say, well, that's sugar, but what is the sugar doing? The sugar is destroying the vascular structure. So, and this is why no pulse or weak pulse in legs or feet. This is why you've got to go to lifeline screening. They check your peripheral, they check your feet, they check your arms. They will tell you whether this is happening. For $300 a year, it is so worth it. Because you get the warning. You don't have to go into a lot of medical tests and other things. You just go to lifeline screening. And you get people that have constant, I'm working with a doctor right now, he's got a client who's done everything for his cramping. Well, I have to look at his findings because there's something going on and with his blood vessels. And I'll see it. I'll see it in the aortic, indicator. So, as I said, this is your key product. And it's key because when you look at this, everyone, if you're not looking, just look here for a second. I've showed this to you before, but I've never recorded it. So this is from Judith DeCava's book, and you can get her book through Saline River Press, of course. This is the architecture of the vitamin C complex. As you notice, you cannot work with bringing back the integrity of your blood vessels with ascorbic acid. Let me save you some money. It's never going to work. It never has worked, and it never will work. Now, I'm going to show you an article by John Courtney. He says the key is the copper-bearing enzyme tyrosinase. So not only is tyrosinase really the core, and remember, tyrosinase is only found in nature. You cannot chemically duplicate tyrosinase. Not only, it also engages certain amino acids, which we'll talk about, that relate to pituitary function, to thyroid function, to adrenal function. Now, I talked about the rutin. Here's your rutin, the P factors, asparatin, quercetin. This is all, you're getting this in Cyruta Plus. You're getting this in Cataplex C. You're getting this in other products, from Catalin all the way to Echinacea C. You're getting this whole complex. Here are the K factors. Remember I talked to you about that fibrin factor? That factor, that is part of, most of you probably don't know this, to regulate that, whether the body's laying too much on or not enough, is the answer to that deficiency is vitamin C. Cataplex C is Cyruta Plus. That's the K factor. That is the fibrin regulating factor. Okay, and what is the J factor? Well, what did we read on earlier? What does the whole vascular structure bring? It brings oxygen. Oh, the J factor expedites the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. So if somebody wants to take 10,000, 5,000 milligrams of ascorbic acid a day, knock yourself out. But you're not going to accomplish what we're talking about today. It's not going to happen. It defies the law of nature. Now, why? Why has it been done? Because it's easy money. Easy money. Sell this cheap crap that is so easy and inexpensive to make. They've made a fortune, billions on ascorbic acid supplements that have little, if not no value whatsoever. Now, reductionists would argue with me, okay, keep using yours and I'll use mine. We'll see how it goes. That's fine. I don't need to argue. Now, the other thing that is very important that Lee talked about in one of his writings is, say you're on vitamin P. And that's why I believe in my vascular integrity. Yes, I have Cataplex F tablets. Say they're not responding. The effect of vitamin P, Cyruta Plus, has been officially shown to be partly involved with calcium diffusion. What? Yes. Yeah. Vitamins P and F. So when you say, oh, Joe, this is a misprint, it's a misspelling here. Calcium diffusion is vitamin F. But what happens? I'm sorry, I said it backwards. If vitamin F is not working for the missing second sound in the heart sound recording graph, and if skin problems aren't clearing up, the partner to F, vitamins P and F, seem to be partners. When we get weakened muscular walls, what did we talk about? Most of the larger arteries and veins have a very significant layer of muscles, right? Muscle tissue in our small blood vessels. They fail to hold back the pressure of the arterial pulse. Now, I could spend an hour talking what that sentence says. When we get weakened muscular walls in our small blood vessels, they fail to hold back the pressure of the arterial pulse. That's why, for all of you that use the heart sound recorder and on my other Zoom webinars, you see these people from time to time, they have no second sound. Well, that doesn't mean the valve isn't closing. It means there's not enough back pressure to close it even enough to have an indication on the graph. Can't even hear it. Love, duh, love, love. There's no love, duh. And that's why, again, the heart sound recorder is so significant. Geez, I'm giving them the F and the calcium that goes with that finding that's not working. Add in the Cyruta Plus, which everyone should be taking anyway. Therefore, the capillaries are subject to undue pressure. These people tend to have, these are the ones with spider veins. These are the ones that have, veins on their chest or their legs. You'll see that's what's going on here. It is not only an F deficiency, it is a P deficiency. And then you have capillary damage. Spider veins. This capillary damage is aggravated by the weakness of the arterioles that normally protect the capillaries from that pressure. This is brilliant. So you can read the whole article. This Conversations in Nutrition is a book. I think it's $10. It's the best book, one of the best books. It's in my top 5. So this is the article. And of course, I'm not going to read this through. I already went through this with the vitamin C complex, the K and other things, and the fact of using high amounts. Remember the Cataplex C, I'll just read you this one part. expand this. If you take if you take an ascorbic acid product, it's 500 milligrams of ascorbic acid. Okay. In fact, it contains as much natural ascorbic acid as you will find in any vitamin C rich foods, rose hips included. So our vitamin C tablet is about 500 milligram tablet. It's 0.1%, 5 milligrams of ascorbic acid. Thus, the label says 5 milligrams. So, in addition to 5 milligrams of ascorbic acid, each tablet contains 495 milligrams of all of this. This is what you want. This is what nature has given us on this planet to protect us, to have quality of life for 90 years or more. So, great article. This is in the clinical reference guide. I don't know if you can still get these books. And as I said, that vitamin P is the anti-stroke vitamin. This was out of Harvard Magazine, their findings. You've heard me speak of this before. But yeah, and here it is, buckwheat. Green buckwheat leaf has the highest amount. And they say in here that if they try to design a clot-preventing molecule, which they always go to the drugs, don't they? Always. Let's create a drug so we can make millions. Or you could spend, $18, $30, whatever it is to get Cybergen Plus. I don't even know what it costs. Or you could just use that. So make your choice. Try to design a clot-preventing molecule. They could scarcely have created one more perfect than the extraction of the green buckwheat. So now, as I continue on here, we're going to look at part of this damage that happens, that occurs, relates to the veins that have valves. Now you could say, well, this relates more to, but all of the larger veins have valves. So interspersed throughout your veins are small crescent-shaped flaps of tissue known as valves. They help prevent a backflow of blood. That's significant, because then you don't get pressure and pooling. These valves project from the innermost layer of the vein wall to enter to the center of the vein and are angled toward the heart. That's an important statement of fact of how the body was designed. In the direction of venous backflow, lacking muscles to open and close them, they work passively, like swinging doors. As blood vessels flow past a valve, it pushes the valve open, and as the blood flow slows, the valve swings back to be in a closed position. So what that is saying to me is the integrity of the pressure throughout this closed system of the vascular system. The integrity of it determines how well these valves in the veins function. Aging, again, lack of nutrient. So what are these? So when you say, well, Joe, what are they made of? Vein valves are made of a protein called collagen. Now, collagen, needs and is not solely, but primarily dependent on vitamin C that we've been talking about. because collagen is significant to the structure. Vitamin C provides the cement for the collagen to work, to do its job. Now, you have the structure of these proteins that are, you could use, Mark uses the analogy of the brick wall, which I love. If you had bricks stacked up, say 4 layers, you could just kick them over, walk right through them. But if you take cement and cement those walls, those bricks together, then you'll hurt your foot, you'll break your foot, trying to push those bricks over. Can't do it, basically, I guess with a sledgehammer. And that is the significance of the C, the true vitamin C factor. It's the intercellular cement that holds collagen in its place. The characteristics of collagen vary slightly from person to person, depending how much vitamin C they have, with some people producing more flexible collagen, while others produce a version that is relatively stiffer. Why? Because they don't have, first of all the factors in the vitamin C complex. And this is why I say to you that that you need Gotu-Kola. So I'll go back to that in a second. Okay, so the Gotu-Kola is famous and has been known for thousands of years as keeping collagen, keeping how these proteins function in a flexible way. While other products, I already read that. So lack of physical activity. Now get this. It's talking about walking group. Muscular activity is important for healthy veins. As you contract your leg muscles, they gently compress the veins and assist the movement of blood through them. Having a desk or standing job that requires you to be sedentary for hours reduces the beneficial effects of muscle activity, and as a result, blood flow becomes sluggish. Over time, this leads to venous hypertension, causing the veins to expand and the valves to become weak. There it is, everyone. There's the money line about daily exercise. Now, we looked at the collagen, the vitamin C factor. Let's look at the proteins. Now, as I've taught you, again, I haven't recorded this, so to my knowledge yet, or parts of this. We can't take just the protein from food and get it into the bloodstream. That's called an allergic reaction. The proteins have to be broken down into 22 heat labile acids. And this is why this sentence right here, this paragraph of John Courtney, came out of a question that I asked John when I was first a rep in 1972. Actually, yeah. Well, I trained in 72, but became a rep in 73. Mrs. Lee hired me. So I said to John, listen, as I get into these products, remember I was only 20 years old, or 21 at that time. I want to know the most important product Standard Process makes, Protofood Joe. And I said, and then he wrote something up, which is part of this, and sent it to me. I didn't put that letter in. And, and he sent it out to everybody. Protofood is the most important product Standard Process makes. It is a result of many years. You cannot make the tissue, vascular tissue, without all 22 amino acids. It promotes tissue repair throughout the body and all of those tissues. Most of the American diet is cooked protein. So 8 of the 22 are gone. The body then can't use the other 14. And that's what he's saying. And these are the ones that are primarily 8. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. And then there's one more that they didn't put in. But you can see if these are missing in that 22 amino acid qualification, I guess you could say, so availability for tissues, then you know you come up with things like paleo, gingivitis, gums. This is how you know that mental derangements, all of this, photophobia, degeneration of the heart muscle. This is just from tryptophan. And we know that that is significant for anybody with sleep disorders too. Methionine deficiency aggravates fatty degeneration, the liver, cornea, and stunting of the growth. So you can read through all of these and you realize, wow, these are so essential for the blood vessels, and from where they go to the eyes, to the ears, hypersensitivity, sensitivity to penetrating sounds. As you get older, you can't stand a lot of loud noise or music that's being played today. That's a lysine deficiency. You'd say, oh, Joe, that's ridiculous. No, it isn't. Bone marrow atrophy. If you don't have the earth substance to provide what the body needs, the body will break. Phenylalanine deficiency halts growth or repair of tissues. And so on. I just put a few of those. I think I went through the 8 there. So let's look at this. Remember, I said the rotation of these 2 herbs in a month's time or in a week's time is so essential. Now, vascular care, if someone doesn't have a major blood vessel issue, you might let this one go. So here are the 3 herbs in here. What do? Butcher's broom is the first one. It is a short evergreen shrub of the Iacine family. Both the leaves and the rhizome of the plant are believed to have diuretic and mild laxative properties. People with constipation, people that can't hold their bladder, this is all tied in. Why can't you hold your bladder? Well, we say, well, it's a B vitamin deficiency. Well, it also is a lack of the substances that make up this herb, and that affect the small blood vessels in the bladder and urinary tract. In other words, it's also, it's a lack of nerve impulse in the bladder to hold the bladder where it should in tone, but it's also a deficiency in the blood vessels in the bladder to move the nutrients through to keep the integrity of that tissue. The plant extracts are widely used in varicose veins, hemorrhoids, and lymphedema. So here it is, the lymph vessels as well with that butcher's. I got to tell you, I've had chiropractors who've been on their feet that, over the years. One of them was one of my most beloved friends in this world. And his legs were so bad, his varicosities were so bad, he was going to have to stop practicing. And I put him on this product. It used to be called horse chestnut, by the way. It's called Vascular. I don't know why they changed it. But anyway, and, in a few weeks, he was much, much better and went on. He had other issues, right? And here's the big, what that product was made of, the big player is horse chestnut seed extract promoted for chronic vein insufficiency, for blood flow, veins of the legs, which may lead to leg pain, swelling, itchiness, and other symptoms. IBS syndrome, male infertility, the lack of being able to get an erection, and other conditions. So here it is. Here is your key herb in this formulation. So, and then more on the horse chestnut from the MediHerb Clinical Reference Guide, where these are done by Lee Carroll, who's just such a true medicine man, true herbalist. And then he goes into, and then the other, this more in the horse chestnut and his definitions of these, what these herbs do. And of course, ginkgo. So, and remember I said, when you lubricate those red blood cells, they move everywhere from the toes to the brain, promotes short-term memory, mental alertness, acuity, cognitive function, enhances circulation to the brain, heart, eyes, ears, early onset Alzheimer's, tinnitus related to the ears, peripheral circulation, and asthma, everyone. People are always saying, oh, I've got a child with asthma. You've got to get him on this, grind it up. I don't care how you get it. So, and then how he has used these over the years. And then the next herb is the Gotu Kola complex, which is, again, is Gotu Kola, ginkgo, and anyway, we'll find that. There's 3 herbs. But what I want to say about ginkgo is, you know, this book, which I've read to you, again, I haven't recorded it, that's why I'm doing this now, this was a book, this gentleman, Richard Lucas, went all over the world interviewing people what they know about this herb. Not so much scientific, but what they've observed for thousands of years, not just hundreds. And here it is, I highlighted. The natives of India use the plant medicinally as a diuretic. There is the integrity of the collagen part of the blood vessels, or a stimulant for the kidneys and bladder, as well as blood purifier and alternate. They called it the perpetual youth supplement. And I'll let you read this through. This is where the story, people have always said, what is the meaning of an elephant never forgets? Well, elephants they're the oldest living mammal, maybe, yeah, that I know of. There might be others. And they have great memories, and they graze on Gotu Kola. So this is all, you can read this here. And so this other part of the endothelial layer I really want to play this. Now let me make sure that you can hear this. Share sound. Okay. And Lynn or somebody, you can just unmute, let me know you can hear it. Oh, there it is.
Endothelial cells line the inside of every blood vessel in the body. They form a one-cell thick layer called the endothelium, which is also found on the inner walls of the heart chambers and lymphatic vessels, which carry excess blood plasma around the body. The endothelium is very extensive. If all the endothelium tissue in an adult body were to be spread out, it would take up the area.
Let me just start it again. Sorry.
Endothelial cells line the inside of every blood vessel in the body. They form a one-cell thick layer called the endothelium, which is also found on the inner walls of the heart chambers and lymphatic vessels, which carry excess blood plasma around the body. The endothelium is very extensive. If all the endothelium tissue in an adult body were to be spread out, it would take up the area of 8 tennis courts. In the larger vessels, such as the veins and arteries, the endothelium forms the blood vessel wall along with much thicker layers of muscle cells and elastic fibers. In the capillaries, however, the endothelium makes up the entirety of the blood vessel wall, as seen here. The main job of endothelial cells is to provide a barrier between the blood and the rest of the body tissues. Blood must be contained inside the transporting vessels, but substances need to move in and out of it in a controlled manner. The endothelium provides this selectively permeable layer across which chemicals and white blood cells move according to where they are needed. The role of the endothelium as a barrier is particularly critical around the brain. The endothelial cells are part of the blood-brain barrier, or BBB, a layer that separates the blood flowing through vessels surrounding the brain from the brain tissue itself. The endothelial cells act like a sieve, restricting the passage of large molecules, toxic substances, and bacteria into the brain tissue while allowing necessary molecules like oxygen, enzymes, and hormones to go through. They also allow waste substances like carbon dioxide produced by neurons to diffuse.
So you can listen to the rest of that. Wasn't that interesting? 8, the size, the area of 8 tennis courts. Pretty amazing. So that is, and this is why, as I said earlier, the dermatrophin is so essential. And Lee says it here. Really, scarring, remember, think of the effect on the blood vessel walls themselves. And remember that endothelial layer so you have 60,000 miles, so 80%, of that, 2/3 of that, 40,000 miles of capillaries. You don't have muscle tissue there. You have mainly endothelial cells. So 2/3 of our circulation. And how can you tell if you start, whether you need this product, is you start to get cracking in your hands and feet. And of course, if you've ever had burns from, or acne, or hair falling out, mainly in women more than men here. So that's how, because at what point, everyone, I know we're late in our session today, right? Almost at an hour and a half. At what point, everyone, does the breakdown of the vascular system become an autoimmune event? An autoimmune event is when your body starts attacking the primary tissue. The proteins that leak into the blood, which don't belong there from that particular organ, gland, or tissue. This is why dermatrophin, Dr. Lee felt, was the most essential and of all the underused products. Here it is. How can I tell if I need it? Is your skin cracking? Are you getting wrinkles in your skin? Well, there it is. Now, we talked a lot about the vitamin F. Its main purpose is to diffuse calcium into the blood. So I'm not going to go into this, but and so we talked about that. And then finally here, you have products like Gotu-Kola Complex, or you could use my brain blend. So we talked about ginkgo, we talked about Gotu-Kola, but let's just look at, you could say, well, Joe, this, the Bacopa doesn't relate to blood vessels. Listen to this. In one animal study, Bacopa reduced both systolic and diastolic blood pressure levels. It did this by releasing nitric oxide, which helps dilate blood vessels, resulting in improved blood flow and lower blood pressure. So you get these individuals who can't, they're on 3 blood pressure medications, try this brain blend. More efficiency of the blood moving, integrity of the blood vessel wall, making it more flexible so it can relax. And Bacopa, which lowers blood pressure by releasing the nitric oxide into the system. There you go. We talked about cardiotrophin and its essential part in vascular health. I'll let you read these through, of course, these different slides. And of course, wheat germ oil. Now, you know, we've talked about wheat germ oil in my HSR classes, but we never really opened, and that's why I put this in from the product bulletin, which is really, again, in my top favorite books. Listen to how much he talks about capillary engorgement, people who bruise easily, black and blue spots, cramps of all types, lowered metabolism, and anyway, bleeding gums, and other vascular symptomatology. So again, when you're looking at blood vessel integrity, at least at some time throughout the year, you must do, or I would say the month, you've got to make sure you have adequate amounts of some vitamin E, especially wheat germ oil. So, and again, how can you tell? If they bruise easily, their gums are bleeding, they get cramps a lot. The athletic cramp is where you would use the wheat germ oil. Now, I don't want to rush through this, so I'm going to add this into my December. This is very important and something that I didn't know till I decided to undertake a session on vascular health. So I'm going to leave this until, it's not that much more, because I don't want to rush through this. And I know you all have to go on to your sessions. So your next session of clients. So I'm going to end this here. And so I will be back for this on, I'll give you the date. The third Thursday in December is the 15th. So thank you all for being on, and I will see you next Tuesday, which is the 27th, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, for the heart sound recorder. Send in your graphs and we'll have a discussion about that. So wonderful to be with you all. Blessings to you all, and I'll talk to you in a few days.
Thank you, Joseph.
Wonderful to have you back. Thank you, Joseph. Wonderful seminar today. Thank you. Webinar.
Thank you, Joseph.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you back.